Hey everyone, C-Stan here with the Lord of the Rings, the Living Card Game. Today I'm looking at another power deck, and we're bringing it up against an extremely difficult quest. So this is Encounter at Amundine Nightmare mode. And don't let the difficulty of the regular mode fool you, because Nightmare mode, I'd say this is one of the quests that has the greatest difficulty difference between standard mode and nightmare mode. The nightmare mode is just insanely hard, whereas regular mode it's considered one of the easiest quests out there. So this is almost impossibly hard. I've lost against this quest so many times, but I think I've put together a pretty good deck for playing against it, and it seems to do well against a bunch of other quests as well. So this is the basic idea. We have Boromir, Arwen, and Galdor. And with Galdor's Mulligan ability, you can get some pretty nice starting hands by discarding all the cards you don't want and drawing up into your combo pieces. So as you see, I drew into a Good Harvest and Steward, and got to play them right away on Boromir, and then discarded my second copy of Steward to give Arwen a resource. I get Ether Swordsman down on the first turn, and already I'm questing for 1, 2, 3, 8. Now, the idea here is that you're trying to save the villagers from being killed. You get to start with 1 on the rescued villagers, but the nightmare mode has you discard 1 every round until, every round. However, I keep using my objective ally to exhaust and move the lost villager onto one of the locations in the staging area. However, that can only be done once, because, the nightmare mode lets you start with 1 on rescued villagers, and so I exhausted my objective ally to move it to one of the locations in the staging area. However, I won't be able to do that this round because I have no saved villagers. So the nightmare mode, it basically says every round you must discard a rescued villager or reveal an additional encounter card that round. And they give you a nice benefit of having 1 rescued villager to start with, so you can have 1 round of peace, but if you don't rescue any more villagers after the first turn, you're going to have to be revealing additional encounter cards, making it even harder to rescue more villagers. And it kind of just spirals out of control. Okay, so this is where I had forgotten to exhaust my objective ally at the end of the last round. Basically, the farmhouse there, you lose a villager on it every round. So after the refresh phase, I just exhausted him to save that villager and just put it back on the location. Okay, so we had to reveal 2 encounter cards this round, and we got place 3 damage tokens on dead villagers, and then we've got to add threat to the staging area for each dead villager. So that's worth 3 threat. We get an enemy 2. And I will discard 2 cards for Protector of Lorien to give Boromir a bonus of 2 willpower. And then use Galdor to draw up 6 more cards because my hand is empty. And now we could boost our willpower even more if we need it, because we got 2 Protector of Loriens there. So I boosted another one to 11, which gives us just enough progress to clear that location and finally save some villagers. if you don't save villagers fast in Nightmare mode, you're just going to have to keep revealing 2 cards. So generally, if you don't clear that location within 1 or 2 turns, it's a restart. Okay, so we have 1 enemy in the encounter area, but we're deciding whether or not we want to travel. That one, I just realized I had forgotten to remove a villager off it when that treachery card got revealed. Okay, so we got 2 defense, and we have to deal him an additional 2 shadow cards. He makes an additional attack, and he gets +1 attack. Deal an additional shadow card. Okay, so he's got a lot of attack, 5 attack, I think, and he's going to attack again. So we're going to discard twice to Protector of Lorien to give Boromir 4 defense. I really want to hold on to my other cards in my hand. That's why I'm not boosting him up to 5. So I raise my threat by 1 and defend again, and nothing bad there. So Boromir will take 1 more damage from that attack. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, the +1 attack bonus went away after his first attack, so he doesn't take damage from the second attack. But I will ready Boromir in the combat phase, raising my threat by 1 to deal 2 damage to him. Okay, refresh phase. It looks like I forgot to use Peace and Thought this round. So I'm actually recording my audio after doing this game. I'm not sure why I didn't use Peace and Thought right there. Oh no. Oh, that's because Galdor didn't have a resource until this turn, of course. Okay, start of the quest phase, we're going to exhaust our ally to save a villager. So we only reveal 1 encounter card this round. And, alright. We commit 8 to the quest. So I've got to discard 2 villager tokens, or search the encounter deck for an enemy. I think I choose the enemy. Yes. So losing 2 villagers at this point would be pretty devastating. So I'll just take another one of these guys. I like these guys because they don't do anything weird. They just have 4 attack. But Boromir can get to 4 defense with the help of Protector of Lorien, so there's not a big problem with that. So we count up the threat in the staging area, and looks like 8 versus 5, we get 3 progress. We boost ourselves up by 1 willpower to get 4 progress. And clear that location and save those villagers. So Protector of Lorien is really useful in this to clear out those active locations. And I do decide not to travel to the other location because it has a nasty travel effect. So I got to raise my threat by 4. So unfortunately my deck isn't working out too well because I do really like to get Brand up right away. So right there I had to either discard a villager or consider the attack undefended, which would have killed a hero. So I decided to lose a villager for that. Now I get to replenish my hand, hopefully draw into a brand to stop these nasty shadow effects from piling up. Okay, we played Daeron's runes, draw a couple cards, still no brand, unfortunately. But I do get a lot, I do finally get a shield, so I don't have to keep discarding as much for Protector. And I do get a couple questers, so I should be fine for willpower. And we also have some shadow cancellation. I'm going to play 2 and probably discard a card here for Arwen so that she can cancel a one revealed effect. I think. So far, we've been pretty lucky with the encounter deck. You can get a really unfortunate string of encounter cards, especially during the setup. You can get really unlucky and lose your rescued villager right away and be forced to reveal 2 cards every turn from the start. That ends a lot of the games pretty quick. So I believe I used Elven Light to draw up some cards. I'm glad I did because I drew into Peace and Thought, which will help for next round. Get an Overrun Village. When an enemy engages you, you discard a village token. And to travel there, you have to discard a villager. So we do place progress on the quest and save some villagers. And we decide to travel there and adding a resource to dead villagers. Because it's going to happen if we leave it in the staging area anyway. Okay, so no shadow. Well, the shadow effect didn't really do anything, but we can ready Boromir and finish off the enemy, and then play Peace and Thought, finally drawing into a Burning Brand. It's never too late. Well, actually, yeah, sometimes it is. Boromir and Peace and Thought go really well together because it doesn't really feel like a huge loss to exhaust Boromir. Okay. So now we got Gondorian Fire up, so he can be swinging for a lot. More than necessary, really. And we also drew into all of our Evening Stars, which are really powerful. We'll discard 1 to give Arwen a resource. And now we play some more of our Outlanders. And we're not going to play the Ether Swordsman because we want to be able to cancel some when revealed effects. So again, I exhaust my ally to save a villager. And we quest for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Although maybe I don't want to quest that much because I'm not ready. Okay, I decide to. I just don't want to risk completing this quest stage and getting Gulat into play before I'm ready. So in the Nightmare mode, Gulat, he's invincible until you have 15 rescued villagers. So you want to stay here and build up your rescued villagers before moving on. Okay, we do get 6 progress. We'll put 5 here and 1 there. So we rescue the 2 villagers on the location and 1 from the quest. Now with the 4 rescue villagers in the staging area, we're getting close to getting to 15 if we rescue those, which we could with Evening Star. But I want to make sure I get to 15 before advancing. And leaving leaving a location in the staging area is kind of handy to save those villagers, because if you don't have a location in play, you can't exhaust your objective ally to move a rescued villager onto a location. You're just forced to reveal 2 cards. So I actually am recalculating this. So instead of nothing has happened, I haven't moved on from the quest phase, but instead of just getting 1 progress on completing the location and getting 1 progress on the quest, I am going to play down an Evening Star, because this will actually allow me to advance, and I will get to 15 resource tokens with the help of my Evening Stars and the 1 last villager that was on the quest stage. So now I keep playing Evening Stars, and this will get a bunch of progress on locations. This is the 3rd. There's 2 in my discard already, so I get to place 6 progress on locations, which will complete both of them. And then all the progress from my actual questing will bring me over to the next stage. Okay, so I decide not to play the final one, just the first one, to get progress on the active. So I do move on to the next stage. I save the 2 villagers from the quest and the 2 villagers from the active location. So we're now at 11. And Galdor comes in with +6 attack for the 6 dead villagers. And when we play Evening Star, we'll be able to clear up that final location and get to 15 so that he becomes possible to damage. But first we're going to defend the attacks, just in case something happens here. We're giving Boromir +7 attack with Galdor and Fire, so he's at 10 attack. And, well, he's got Brand on, so we're really not worried about these attacks. Boromir will be able to defend just fine, although for attack, we're going to have to discard a couple cards to get him up to 6 defense. Sorry, Galdor has 6 attack. We have 4 defense, so we discard twice for Protective Lorien to give him Boromir 6 defense so he doesn't take damage. And when he attacks, we place a token on dead villagers. I'm not sure if I forgot to do that, but it won't affect anything. Does it say when he attacks or after he attacks? If it's when he attacks, he should have +1 attack and 7 attack. We could just discard another card or just take 1 damage. But if it's after he attacks, then we're fine here. So we do play the final copy of Evening Star and clear up the location to get to 15 progress on rescued villagers. And now he becomes killable. So Boromir with his 10 attack just takes him out, just enough. Okay, and we decide not to ready Boromir again and kill off that final enemy because, well, we were at 46. We were going to go up to 47 threat, and I know there are doomed 2 cards in the encounter deck. So if we had gone up to 48 threat by attacking 1 more time, a doomed 2 card would end us. And I can't guarantee myself to find one of my threat reducing cards in the next turn. So yeah, we're just gonna leave the enemy there because we should be able to complete this final stage this turn, and so that enemy staying there won't really matter. We exhaust. That's 12 willpower. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay. So we do have to reveal 2 cards because we can't do the thing where we move a rescued villager to a location or discard a rescued villager. So we have to reveal 2 cards, and the first one searches, so we reveal all 3, and there's just a couple locations. So fortunately, we just had the doomed 1 on that first card. It could have been nasty. It could have surged into the doomed card that I was worried about, the doomed 2 card that I was worried about, but luckily it didn't happen. We also kind of got lucky with our hands here in not drawing into some key cards for threat reduction. If we had drawn into a Song of Travel, we could have played it on Boromir, given him the spirit resource, and kept discarding Elven Light 8 times, or I guess, 8 times continually until we drew into threat reduction with the help of Protector of Lorien. So you can see I still had 2 Elrond's Councils in the deck and Favor of the Valar. So if we had been able to draw 1 more card, we would have hit into our threat reduction. And I could have done that instead of playing my Aether Swordsman, but I didn't realize how close I was into drawing into the Elrond's Council. So if I had discarded Elven Light to Protector of Lorien 1 more time and pulled it back with Arwen, I would have drawn into the Daeron's Runes and then drawn into the into Elrond's Council and been able to reduce my threat some more. But there you have it. Seems to be a solid win against Encounter of Amundine. And let me just show you real quick. I'm not going to play again, but I'm going to show you some starting turns with this deck just to show you how fast it is at getting set up on its essential mission to make Boromir an invincible defender. So here's a starting hand. I've got a bunch of cards that aren't key, so I draw 4 additional cards using Galdor, and then start. And it doesn't look like I'm able to play Steward here, because I didn't draw into a good harvest, and I also won't be able to play Brand yet because I didn't draw it. But we will discard 1 to Arwen to give Galdor a resource and get a song up on Boromir. So even though we don't get those defense boosts on Boromir right away, we do have Protector of Lorien as backup if he needs to defend on turn 1. And as you can see, I've got the Peace and Thought in hand, so I'm trying to save a resource on Galdor at the end of this round so that I can draw up. So already on turn 1, we have a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 willpower, reducing our threat by 3. And yes, I could have played the Gondorian Fire as well if I had wanted to. I'm doing some things out of order here because it's just practice, but I do, with the additional 5 cards from Peace and Thought, I draw into all the pieces I need. So I've got Brand, I've got Steward up in play, we get an Aether Swordsman out already, and a second Gondorian Fire. And what we can do here is we could also discard this to Protector, because I've already discarded to Arwen, and then trigger Galdor to draw 6 more cards. And we could do more stuff with what's in our hand right now. like Daeron's runes. And we have Peace and Thought ready to go again for the next round because Boromir now has a lower icon. And we draw up 5 more. And start the new turn. We get to trigger Steward. We could play another Ether Swordsman this round by discarding to Arwen. We're pretty much good to go. We have threat reduction, fair amount of threat reduction. Boromir can get some decent defense with the help of Protector of Lorien, and some decent attack with the Gondorian Fire, and it's just going to get even better as we go on. And as this is the only the third turn, you should ideally have survived until this point. So that's it, pretty much. I think I'll restart it just one more time. So here's another Peace and Thought. We get 5 more. We get our Gondorian Shield, which seems to be coming to us a little bit late, actually. Normally I get it faster than that. And already Boromir with 3 Gondorian Fires could deal a whole lot of damage. Or if we're not worried about the damage, we could play down Song of Travel and give him the Spirit icon. And that would allow us to just keep discarding our Elven Lights to Protector of Lorien 3 times a phase and use up all of Boromir's leftover resources for drawing cards. So that's generally what I do if I prefer to get cards and not worry about Boromir's attack. So that's pretty much how the start of the game goes. I was a little slow on getting the shield. Normally I would see it faster than that. Just one brief more restart here. Looks like I got a pretty bad hand, so I'm going to not use Galdor's ability and take a mulligan instead. And still drew into kind of an unfortunate hand, but we get a nice card on the top of the deck there. We draw into 2 more. So that's nice. We get to start with the shield. And Steward. So we spend 2, exhaust the Steward, get the shield out. And so going back, I think it's better to spend Galdor's resource on the Steward, not Arwen's, because okay, so we discard Elven Light to we discard Elven Light to give Arwen a resource, and then use Galdor to put down Protector of Lorien. And the reason I do that is maybe I don't. I forget what I did here. So it's a debate between getting the Ether Swordsman out, so whether or not to spend Galdor's resource or Arwen's resource on the Steward, whether to get the Ether Swordsman out or the Protector out. And I guess I decide on the Ether Swordsman. The argument for the Protector would be, if I played that on the first turn, I could discard the rest of my hand and trigger Galdor, which would allow us to draw up 5 more cards. 6 more cards. So here we just decide to do it in the second turn instead. We discard 1 to Arwen, and then we can draw up 6. And we find the brand. So we're good to go. It's turn 2, and Boromir now has 4 defense, which is boostable up to 7 defense, and he's got Burning Brand and unlimited actions. And we have decent willpower as well, right from turn 2. So this is a really fast deck. and it's good against those quests that hit you hard early, like Amundine does with enemies. And it's pretty consistent. If you get a really bad hand, sometimes Galdor's first ability isn't so great. But you could, in theory, discard all 6 and try to draw into a better hand. But sometimes you can get unlucky. So here's an example of what would happen after a few turns of building up resources with Steward. If we give, since I didn't get to show you this yet, if we give Boromir a Song of Travel, then you can discard Elven Light to the Protector of Lorien 3 times a phase, so 6 times a phase with 2 copies, and you get to keep pulling it back with Boromir's Spirit resources. So every resource turns into a card, and you can do that 6 times every phase. So if you find yourself with a pile of resources on Boromir that are doing nothing, you can turn them into card draw. And this is one very powerful ability. I've had other Boromir decks in the past that basically do the same sort of concept, but after Boromir's got 20 resources on him, they're just sitting there doing nothing, because with Gondorian Fire and Blood of Numenor, he can be attacking and defending for as much as he wants, and all the leftover resources are doing nothing. So by giving him a Spirit icon and giving him Protectors of Lorien, you can turn all those leftover cards into card draw, and it makes your deck really consistent. Really, this deck is attack and defense in the form of Boromir, and then questing in the form of the Outland allies. And it's also got when revealed cancellation and threat reduction and shadow cancellation. So it's a good solo deck because it can handle pretty much everything that the deck throws at you. Alright, thanks for watching. Happy questing.